All are architects of fate, working in these walls of time, some with massive deeds and great, some with lesser rhyme. Longfellow, the builders. Along the transcendent corridors of creative reality, architects of fate have made timely contribution to an interpretation of the expansive creation. Each architect contributed in the particular measure decreed by fate and time. Copernicus, Halley, Kepler, Galileo, Huygens, Newton, Herschel, Laplace, and others in the lengthy roster of time's workers assisted in the perfecting of a conceptual mechanism which explained the conditions and events, seeming or factual, projected on life's screen by surpassing creative function. Yet despite the best application of time's workers, the reality remained obscure, and the most precise mathematical systems failed to embrace sublime cosmic reality. It is true that their artistry developed a materialistic system, which provided plausible and acceptable explanation of the appearance of celestial things and conditions. But the mysteries of the cosmos remained as mysterious as ever. Through the forceful dictates of fate and time, the systems evolved accomplished no greater knowledge of the creation's values. They only extended the spacious lawns and gardens of assumption to dignify man's prison of terrestrial isolation. The terrestrial remained a prison in spite of the architectural enterprise. The monumental man-made mechanistic universe has throughout the years been embellished by all manner of astronomical findings. And, though the things and conditions comprising such findings were of the illusory, popular concept has attributed to them the value of creative reality. Theory's lawns and gardens have been so enlarged during the past 400 years that casual observers have lost sight of the fact that they obscure a terrestrial prison. The progress of the centuries has been that of enlarging and beautifying a heathen god image, which might be expected to develop godly attributes in the process. Such being the case, the centuries of magnified glamour for the decorative mathematical formulas may have led one to believe in the reality of the mechanistic systems which disintegrate the cosmos and isolate the earth. The fables of that decorative scheme have become so firmly established that they are considered to represent factual elements of the creative pattern. Hence there may again be expressed the thoughtlessness of a certain charming but misguided lady of other years who attended the author's lecture account of celestial reality. At the lecture's close, she artlessly exclaimed, "Oh, I do not like you. You take away my stars." How could the stars of that dear lady, and of all the dear and charming ladies of this universe, be taken away, except by divine decree of the sublime creative force, which originally ordained their resplendent but beguiling placement? Such meaningless plant is akin to the unexpected utterance of one who had long prayed to be a mother and who, in observing delivery of the infant for which she had prayed, might cry out to the obstetrician, "Oh, I do not like you. You have taken away my stork. You have destroyed the value of my childhood dolls." Would one expect that mother to renounce and condemn the medium whereby the reality she prayed for was brought to light? Could she be expected to decry the living image holding reality for all the illusions that could be crammed into human consciousness? The tangible and the real is sought from earliest childhood. Every activity is directed toward the acquisition of knowledge, which discloses new facts of the immediate world in which we dwell. And who would have it otherwise? Has the beneficent light and warmth of the sun been depreciated through acquisition of knowledge as to the manner in which that light and warmth is generated and dispensed? Has the golden sunshine diffused from our immediate sky, wherever one might dwell, become less golden because recent stratosphere observations disclose that the sun is red, rather than of golden luminosity, when observed against stratosphere darkness? Are dreams to be considered less than dream through knowledge of the causes and the possible portent of dreams? would thought be detracted from if we were to become cognizant of the precise order and movement of a single thought vibration within the human brain? Could it be possible to consider blood less than blood if and when we acquire precise knowledge of its composition, and are thereby enabled to reproduce it in laboratory endeavor? No, dear lady, nothing has been taken away. Your stars will continue to shine in the 6 magnitudes of their original classification, according to brightness, by the ancient gentleman named Hipparchus. And they will continue to be observed unto the 21st magnitude by the modern gentlemen with lenses who are known as astronomers. The only thing to undergo change will be adult understanding of star value, and the only thing to be taken away will be the purposeless illusion of yesteryear. And though your interpretation of all such points of celestial skylight becomes more articulate, you will never be denied pleasure of the continuing illusory appearance of your little stars that seem to wink and blink at you and hold stealthy rendezvous in the stillness of the night. The so-called stars above will remain to all observation, but their true character will be known, and their previous star value will exist in a way comparable to the manner in which animals and objects existed without body proportion for the undeveloped child mind. The minds of children not old enough to have acquired a third dimension concept of mass or body property cannot perceive the fullness of animals and objects. Hence the animal or object must be drawn without body fullness, and all efforts to reproduce the animal or object of 3 dimensions, length, width, and thickness, permit of nothing more than the lines showing the animal or object on a 2-dimensional plane. Without concept of the body thickness of animal and objects, the child cannot express what concept does not hold. As the child grows older, it develops 3-dimensional plane. Without concept of the body thickness of animals and objects, the child cannot express what concept does not hold. As the child grows older, it develops 3-dimensional concept of things. It realizes that the animals and objects have body for, or fullness. Then it is able to reproduce the animal or object as it is rather than as it at first seemed to be to the undeveloped child mind. Strange as it may seem to members of our enlightened modern society, there are entire tribes in remote and uncultivated areas of the earth whose members are incapable of depicting objects and animals of 3 dimensions. They, too, are obliged to draw the animal or object without body fullness. Thus, would one consider that the child had lost or gained through that measure of mental growth enabling it to perceive the reality of things and conditions as they exist in a world of 3 dimensions? Could the devoted parent or the conscientious teacher be expected to decry the child's mental development? Would the particular animal or object become less real to the advancing child intelligence? The answers are most obvious. Nothing was subtracted from the child's mind and the measure of amusement derived from drawing the animals and objects. Nor was anything taken away from the animal or object and the drawings thereof. On the contrary, there was considerable of lasting value added for the child, for the animals and objects, and for the drawings. Therefore, the child mind acquired the realistic value of things. In like manner will there develop general advancement through discernment of the factual value of celestial lights. In the deeper astro-mathematical endeavor, there will continue to be telescopically observed the so-called stars of brilliancy to the 21st magnitude. And star light intensity will continue to be observed as varying from time to time and from place to place. That will apply to the terrestrial as well as the celestial. Such conditions will endure for the lenses, and the numerous other deceptions, for which the lenses are responsible, will not be ended as far as observation is concerned. but the brain will know the reality behind the deceptions. Celestial observation and study will be advanced through observation of terrestrial skylight from newly acquired celestial land points of observation. But the study will continue to hold the apparent features of present astronomical study of the celestial. And the apparent conditions must endure despite the fact that rocket camera photographs have proved such features to be just as apparent in terrestrial skylight areas. In no way will the presently observable celestial pattern be changed, but its multiple manifestations will be understood for what they are, rather than what they seem to be. And the mental portrait acquired of universe reality will transcend the mechanistic vista evolved from deceptive appearances, which previously obscured reality. The intriguing cosmic arrangement will, to observation, continue to contain the giants and the dwarfs of astronomy's elaborate star cataloging. The numerous galaxies will persist in the telescopically observable pattern of the cosmic whole, whether observations be from the terrestrial or the celestial. But their meaning will be known. And the meaning will express something in a realm of cosmic reality, where all of yesteryear's illusions accepted as fact will be known as illusion. Then will better equipped architects of fate accurately read the skylight prints of the master builder's universe construction. The present so-called heavens above will continue to hold all the current guidance expressed by astrology, for knowledge of the movement of celestial skylight will not change the movement. And the uplifting influences will remain for men and women who believe in the value of the positions of their celestial light guides. The spiritual uplift and moral guidance will be the same even through the presently assumed ascendancy of a particular luminous celestial area is conclusively established as nothing more than the undulating motion of luminous sky gas over an unobservable celestial land mass. It is the measure of belief and the depth of faith in a condition or thing, rather than the property of the condition or thing, which develop the inspiration and the rosy outlook we all require in the journey through this vale of tears. Hence in the ultimate it makes little or no difference how the uplift and guidance is acquired. The art of astrology will retain its star symbols. Their movements, real or fancied, need not be discarded. And whatever the extent of human enlightenment may be, knowledge will not detract from the favorable influences accredited to, and forthcoming from, individual actions at the times considered to be most opportune. In another realm of terrestrial human relations, the concept of theological heaven can endure for the religious multitude. The most skeptical cannot successfully challenge the theological premise that the unknowable infinity contains a departed spirit abode. And, in being such, it can be expected to defeat any application of abstract mathematics seeking to determine or to negate heaven's existence. When it is fully realized that the vast astronomical resources, with unlimited scope of operation for probing the universe about us, fail in detecting and establishing realistic values of the universe, it will become manifest that fathoming of a more elusive spirit domain is beyond the ability of astronomy. And it would make no difference if the spirit domain were within or beyond the physical universe. Moreover, were such a utopian haven to exist within the realistic universe, and were it to be nightly viewed and measured by all of astronomy's mighty instruments, how could its identity be established? Would the spirits tell the astronomers, or would God tell them? Could the flaunted astronomical mechanics, which are proved impotent to detect celestial land mass or to differentiate between seeming and factual sky gas motions, be expected to penetrate into and determine an eternal celestial homestead for human spirits departed? And how could it be known as such even though it might, in some inconceivable magic manner, be embraced by mortal man's instruments of detection? Further, which of man's great instruments could be expected to determine that the spirits detected in an obscure spirit domain were in fact heavenly spirits? What could be the precise astro-mathematical formula providing the standard of measurement for spirits heavenly and spirits unheavenly? Heaven, theological heaven, which is not the so-called heavens above, could be anywhere within the constructed physical universe, so far as any abstract science is concerned. What abstract science, or what positive science, is capable of contradicting the conjecture that on some landmass area of the universe whole, and an area that is not embraced by dogmatic heaven, there now dwell human beings possessed of wings? When we consider astronomy's absurd assumptions, which obscure and deny the reality and life of the universe, what strangeness could possibly attach to the assumption that living men and women of other universe areas are endowed with wings? There is nothing strange about it, when we consider that any number of inferior animals of so-called prehistoric times are portrayed with wings, even though they were never seen by men. Who is to determine that the age-old desire of terrestrial man to fly stemmed in its entirety from the ever-present example and influence of birds in flight? Could there not have been retained within man the instinctive knowledge of having flown at an earlier period of his development? Further, could not the presently developed terrestrial man, prior to his terrestrial residence, have had wings suitable for a former residence somewhere on the celestial? Surely it is just as easy to ordain men with wings as to conjecture them with tails, even though tails might be considered more appropriate for some. Further, what mortal eloquence of reasoning can convincingly deny the existence of a celestial area inhabited by, and restricted to, formless spirits that cannot be seen? As such spirit cannot be seen, human mind could not discern their presence even though terrestrial men were to trespass on such celestial area of spirit domain and move among the formless spirit residents. Can we, of physical substance and form, see the radio image of substance during the period when it is transformed into energy and motion? Can we detect it before it is received and reproduced as substance image by the receiving apparatus we have constructed especially for the energy reception and its transformation into an image of the original substance? And, though our receiving and transforming equipment be most magnificent, can we detect, receive, and transform the energy unless there is proper reception, or attunement? Can we decipher the telephonic vibrations in transit and before they reach the receiver adjusted for their reception? Can we intercept the brain's functional magnetic vibrations before they are registered as waves on the recording chart of our own making? And even after their recording, can we decipher their vibrative messages in physical terms? These forces at work are within the unquestioned realistic realm of human physical expression. They represent the elements of and from man, and of which man has daily experience. Yet man, as creating power behind such forces at work, with the possible exception of the brain's function, lacks complete mastery of those forces directly at hand and under man's constant supervision. Therefore, what is the possibility of scientific determination of spirit vibrations which are without conformance to any man-made recorder? And the possibility becomes more remote if we grant the astronomical distances involved to be real. This treatment of spirit may seem to conflict with previous mention of a living person's observation of a moving luminescent spirit proceeding in the darkness away from a human body, where all vital functions had just ceased. However, there can be no conflict. The spirit seen as an individual spirit must lose its individuality as it merges with all spirits in the unknown spirit world. Then it may defeat mortal ability to see it again as the individual spirit as it took flight from the body it had sustained for 1 or 100 years. Like the individual cell which is lost to view by the ensuing multiplication of cells constructing the human body, the individual spirit must be lost to view in its mergence with the countless spirits making the eternal spirit world. After all, it was the unseen spree which actuated the original cell to build the body. Without it, there would have been no body. And the spirit, which actuated the original cell to build the body, remained the actuating force of that particular body until the spirit was ready to depart. Such condition is life. It should be manifest to all even if there were not a single religious utterance attempting description of man's eternal spirit. However, in spite of the individual spirit's mergence with other spirits after it has performed its task in the individual body, it may at times reassert individuality and take flight from the domain of collective spirits departed. That is a very pleasing conjecture, and there is no authority to deny the possibility. In such case, the individual spirit may again be seen by selected human beings to whom the spirit manifests its presence. The following simple example may more adequately describe. As living individuals, with body and spirit, we are permitted to see neuron activity of the body's nervous system. It is seen through the experienced twitching of a single nerve. But we are denied seeing the accumulation of body neurons, which comprise the body's nervous system. Hence the departing single, or individual, body spirit at the time of departure from the body may here be considered analogous to the single nerve's observable twitching. That individual spirit's completion of flight from the body, making for its mergence with all the spirit world, would afford it corresponding status in the unseen accumulation of neurons in the living body's nervous system. It would thereby become invulnerable to the sight of any living person. However, even though it were obliged to remain merged with other spirits of the spirit world, it could express unseen spirit individuality by manifesting its spirit presence to the spirit of a particular living person. Thus would spirit manifestations, unseen, develop for the person's subconscious, which would in turn alert consciousness to that spirit's presence. And the spirit presence, though unseen, would be most real. The living person's entire nervous system would feel it. And the effect of the living person's spirit attunement to the departed spirit's presence would penetrate to the outer layer of the person's skin. There are many who have known such spirit attunement, and have experienced its reaction on the flesh and the skin. Hence it should not be too difficult to discern that the greatest possible physical advance into land areas of the so-called heavens above can never involve trespass on the territory of heaven, wherever it may be. Though the so-called heavens above are everywhere, heaven must always be a restricted domain where living beings are denied entrance. Were it otherwise, heaven would cease to be heaven. And it is no doubt the only area where there is no necessity for the luminous skylight to express stars shining above. The splendor of heaven would have to be too magnificent for detection by lenses and their lensmen, or it could not be heaven. It would have to transcend mortal concept. And it does. 50 long and tumultuous years ago, in that burdenless childhood of folklore and fables holding the enchantment of "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are," a sensitive child asked his beautiful first lady of life, "Mother, how far is the sky?" And the beautiful first lady, to whom this book is appropriately dedicated, responded, "Darling, the sky is millions of miles away." Memory of her loving response provokes the question, can anyone believe that the measure of enchantment held in childish vista of an unknown sky a million miles away can compare with the fascination held in adult knowledge of the sky's propinquity at 10 miles? Can the enchantment of distance, which served childhood, compare with adult comprehension of the sky's godly ordained purpose of providing unfailing protection for all life and vegetation on land underlying that sky throughout the universe whole? What possible loss could the child sustain through a realization that the million-mile distance was untrue, and that the appearance of great distance to the sky was an illusion? Nothing could be taken away, because nothing real had existed. And, in this particular instance, considerable is gained through understanding of the sky's propinquity and its marvelous life-saving purpose and function. By the same token, what loss could be sustained from understanding that the myriad celestial lights are of the same gaseous content as the terrestrial sky, and that they express the same degree of brilliancy, and that they perform the same motions as our terrestrial sky's luminous outer surface? And who could be hurt through knowledge that the light from terrestrial sky area must express to celestial observers the same heavens above, which celestial lights present to observers dwelling on this terrestrial area? Though every living person possessed complete understanding of celestial reality, would not such luminous celestial areas continue to transmit the present illusory star messages? We must not lose sight of the fact that up is always relative. Up is everywhere. Hence present residents of the terrestrial will in future years dwell on land underlying what is now considered a star. Then, in looking up or out from the celestial land area, they will observe terrestrial sky areas as stars and planets. And would not future residents of celestial areas speak of the collective luminous terrestrial sky areas as the heavens above? The appearances, and the description of such appearances, will continue to be the same in spite of the fact that knowledge of the illusion will be positive. It will be known that every point of terrestrial skylight is only deceptively globular, and therefore only apparently isolated. Hence the words of illusion will endure though knowledge is had that they applied only to the illusory. They will have extended life in the manner that the fable of the stork is afforded expression by adults who know that the stork's delivery of babies is pure fiction. Does not adult intelligence enjoy the most far-fetched fiction and the most impossible, but temporarily intriguing, cinema productions, even though complete awareness has had that conditions described by books or cinemas area beyond the bounds of reality? Hence would the utmost knowledge of celestial values cause the stars, as they are now seen, to appear less than what they now appear to be? Would they not hold greater value as known star illusions than as the unknown illusions of the centuries? The moon would not be less moon were it universally known that the area of luminosity, greater than the luminosity of other celestial areas, is but a reflection of the sun at various angles at different periods. And it will not detract from the moon and its purpose when it is known that the reflection is not cast upon an isolated moon body much closer to the earth than other celestial areas, but that the reflection is in fact cast upon an area of the luminous connected celestial sky. Would not the moon continue to shine? And would it not continue to inspire all the poetic description of yore? Would not the harvest moon of tomorrow as of yesteryear parade in regal splendor along its full dress course of autumn nights? And would it not bring to pleasing fruition the bountiful crops and other joys of harvest moon and harvest nights? Would not the symbolic crescent moon persist and merit all the time-worn description of oriental intrigue? And how dismal the soul would be of one who could not be transported on the crescent moon to faraway desert sands and tents, where nearby harems passions gild the oriental crescent moon with tone of fiery red. Would not all that apply, whatever the moon may be in a world of reality? And, in that world of reality, the moon is very definitely not an isolated body. The author, who 50 years ago questioned his mother, recently directed the same question to a youth who was intently observing the nightly drama of celestial skylight. He asked, "Son, how far away do you think the sky is?" And the youth responded, "The sky is gillions and gillions of miles away. Gillions and gillions of miles away." As there are no gillions of which the youth spoke, there exists no isolated moon body of which older children speak. Nor do there exist anywhere in the created universe wholly isolated star or planet bodies of which astronomers speak. They are no less conditions of a world of illusion than the sky's seeming distance to the undiscerning youth to whom the sky appeared beyond estimate of distance. So again the question is presented, what loss could that youth have suffered when he subsequently learned that there are no gillions of anything, and that the seemingly distant sky is only 10 miles from the Earth's surface? Likewise, what loss could be known by all the Earth's children through extension of knowledge that stars are deceptively appearing globular and isolated areas of a continuous and unbroken luminous outer sky surface? And would there not develop a measure of spiritual uplift from knowledge that such sky protectively covers every foot of the celestial land in the same manner as it protects all terrestrial land and life? And what too would be sustained by learning that the universal sky light, of varying brilliancy, only seems to twinkle or blink for the substantial reasons described in previous chapters? Despite the acquisition of such corrective knowledge, today's children grown will in tomorrow's expanding horizons continue to look out from terrestrial positions to view the resplendent so-called heavens above. And they, too, will mention their favorite twinkling stars. And their view, and the description of that view, will remain, though knowledge will then be had that former terrestrial residents are living on the land mass underlying the celestial sky area to be seen from terrestrial observation as a twinkling star. Therefore, the undiscerning lady lecture attendant may take comfort in the knowledge that nobody and no known force can take away her stars. The astrologers and their followers, and all zealous star-gazers everywhere, may know that their stars will endure as long as the universe and its life continue. If the creative force arranging the universal sky light, which permits star patterns to be seen for the reasons they are seen, were to cause discontinuance of the sky and its light, there could then be no mortal eyes to behold that the stars were gone. For without protective celestial and terrestrial sky density to produce the light which provides the star appearance, there would then cease to be any semblance of life on Earth or on the universe about us. For astronomy in its elaborate mechanistic system, the North Star, and every presently charted celestial sky light point comprising the astronomer's star charts, will remain to observation. And they will suffer no disturbance whatever other than that of having added to them, through human understanding, their natural underlying and long-denied land mass. And it will then be understood that the underlying land mass is productive of abundant vegetation, and that it sustains human and other animal life. No, the stars are not to be taken away by man's immediate conquest of celestial land areas which the so-called stars, as areas of celestial sky light, so competently protect and hide. The religions and their devout members will continue to retain their luminous symbols as the Star of David, or the Star of Bethlehem. The presently observed celestial and terrestrial sky light appearances will endure as long as the protective universal sky remains an aspect of God's great miracle, and serves as that master builder's universe roof. The past quarter of a century's naval research and exploration has proved the disclosures first made in the presence of the Boston Cardinal of 1927. It confirms that the so-called heavens above are to be observed from any location of the universal whole. However, though 1,000 polar expeditions penetrate 1,000,000 miles and more into the interior of the heavens above, there will be no disruption of the presently observable celestial pattern. The observations will forever remain as they are. but journeys into the universe about us will provide belated knowledge of cosmic reality, and that knowledge will inspire a greater faith in the master builder responsible for the universe structure. Then will it be known that the unique master builder always deals in realistic force and substance, which permit no place for the cosmic phantoms of astro-mathematical deduction. The kingdom of the heavens above, though not of heaven, is at hand, where it has always been. We just didn't know it. And the now clearly defined and most convenient land courses into the realistic celestial lands extend straight ahead from either supposed end of the known Earth. They are the land highways discovered beyond the South Pole point of theory on the memorable date of December 12, 1928, and beyond the North Pole point of theory in February 1947. During the period of this book's compilation, Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd publicly announced his intention to return for exploration of the millions of square miles of land embraced by the 1928 estimate of a 5,000-mile land extent beyond the South Pole point. Since that announcement, the U.S. Naval Air Unit penetrated miles of the land extent estimated. Yet only a brief mention was made of that surpassing accomplishment of January 13, 1956. As previously explained, it should be realized that the 1928 estimate of land extent constitutes only an elementary evaluation. The 5,000 miles is the greatest possible length estimate until a new estimating point is established at the 5,000-mile location. Then another 5,000-mile estimate of land length will be made. And that process of estimating and penetrating to the estimated length will continue for any number of years depending upon the speed of penetration into worlds beyond the poles. But by the time Naval Polar Expedition of the United States and other nations reach the end of that 5,000-mile estimated extent, there will be found a race of men who are presently unknown to this Earth. They also have lacked knowledge of their land's extension into the terrestrial area, and they have made no attempt to penetrate the forbidding ice and storm barrier of the terrestrial southern polar area. Their relation to terrestrial inhabitants corresponds to our pioneering European ancestors' relation to the American Indian. The American Indian of the 15th century was also without knowledge that the water of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans was the course to another world. The American Indian was as ignorant of the existing Old World as our European ancestors were of the Indians' New World. Moreover, the seeming meeting of the sky with the water was as real for the New World Indian as it was for the 15th century European. Hence the Indian could not have been expected to attempt penetration into a land which was beyond his concept. And he, too, was afraid of falling over the edge of the Earth and being lost in space. The international polar expeditions of 1957 to 58 may have penetrated to the estimated 5,000-mile extent beyond the South Pole. As progress is continued beyond that point, there will be found the numerous racial groups characteristic of this terrestrial area's population. White men will dwell in one area. Black men will live in another area. Yellow men will greet explorers in a land area farther beyond. Brown and copper-colored men will be found to inhabit other areas. All the known changes in climatic conditions common to terrestrial areas will be found to prevail throughout the land areas containing the various racial groups of worlds beyond the poles. And every area of the land beyond is a spacious highway of the so-called heavens above. For, as the illustrative flywheel universe conveyed, the lowest angle in progress beyond either terrestrial pole point bears the relation of being up from terrestrial level. Study of that figure 1 will show that any area of the flywheel beyond the designated terrestrial pole points must, from observation anywhere between the two poles, appear to be up from the area embraced by the poles. Hence the discovered lands beyond the North Pole and the South Pole are not merely highways into the celestial. They are positive land areas of the celestial, which makes the universe about us. And they represent connecting land courses to the particular land areas of the heavens above, to be observed on the perpendicular, or directly overhead, from any land area of the terrestrial. The celestial areas having placement in the universe hole at an angle of only 5 degrees beyond terrestrial level are as much a part of the heavens above as the luminous celestial areas observed at an angle of 90 degrees. They are all connected areas of the continuous universe whole. The factual universe contour and the physical relation of the terrestrial to the celestial presents a truth stranger than the strangest fiction the minds of men have ever developed. But truth is supposed to be stranger than fiction.